our followers just a little bit of a breakdown what you've done. I thought that I would put some tropical background with your tropical swims that you've done. So I hope you like my palm tree and ocean, but while wearing a jacket outside just to get the the good weather and the good internet. But guys, yeah, Cam, I think I've given the guys a really good rundown. Firstly, a huge, congratulations, proudly South African, what you've achieved in the last couple of years. And I think I'm going to start with a couple of questions. First question of being, have you always been a swimmer? How did you really get into open water swimming? Have you always been a swimmer?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, not at all. Actually, it might take me a little while to answer the question, but yeah, bear with me. So I actually grew up a rower. I used to row in Cape Town and at university, and kind of my rowing career kind of peaked when I was at Rhodes University, and I made the South African under 23 squad and traveled with the to Europe to race, and so that was amazing. That was probably the highlight of my early sporting career. But then I kind of gave up, and I my swimming started when I was living in London, but the reason why I was in London is that 3 years before I'd been living in China, and I decided when I left China I was going to cycle out. So I just kind of bought a bicycle and rode my bike until I kind of ran out of money, and ended up in the southern tip of India. And I called my old boss. I said, I want to put my job back. I don't want to go back to Beijing and got a job in London. And then so I was living in London and never having really swum before. I kind of wanted to set some new goals, and because that cycling trip, I did it just on a whim. I didn't do it for charity. I decided to set up a charity and start focusing on doing other things other than rowing and swimming. And I decided as a fundraising goal for the new charity, I wanted to swim the English Channel, even though I'd actually never swum before. I mean, obviously I knew how to swim, but I didn't swim at high school or in university since. And so basically I had 8 months to try and learn how to swim and to train for it. And I think this is just when I met you, Tony. Just I think we met at Silvermine one morning.
That's right.
And so I went and trained a lot, and I basically scraped through the English Channel. But yeah, I made it, so that was good.
And that's finishing the English Channel, which is like the summit of swimming. Did you think that you were going to go into? Would you ever do a channel game? Because I remember when we spoke about it, it was like, yes, that was a beast. Don't have to do that again. And then you carried on, eh?
Yeah, I definitely got the bug, eh? Basically, so I hadn't really swum before the English Channel, and in 8 months, I got some lessons from a coach, and he taught me the long distance swimming technique. Trained obviously an incredible amount for it, and then did it, and basically just scraped through it. But I really, really enjoyed it, both the training side and also the actual executing the actual swim. It was an amazing experience, obviously tough as hell, but I really kind of I loved the experience. And I had some other goals for my charity. One was cycling the length of the United Kingdom, and then the other one was rowing across an ocean. And so I focused on those things, the English Channel swim. But once I'd kind of finished doing those things, those other fundraising events, the swim and the row, I kind of wanted to come back to swimming for sure. I just really missed the being in the water so much. Actually being in the water, and swimming and the training was great. And and I wanted to set some new goals.
And Cam, I mean, if you look at your training and your building up, and it's quite amazing to hear that you weren't a swimmer, you're a rower. But obviously the mental push and drive to get you through those swims, you get to that point where you're wanting to give up and you can't, and your why actually drives you. And I think that's what's so amazing, that everything that you've linked, you've made it to a really good cause and making a difference in the world too. So now just chat about Banya and what drives you in your swim. So if you look at your English Channel swim, then going into the Ocean 7, being the first South African and the 11th person in the world to carry on going through that challenge and linking to a charity, did you find that was a big driver to get you the other side of those challenges?
Yeah, definitely. It helps a lot having a specific purpose and goal in mind. Obviously, the main goal is obviously to make it across, because you train so hard for it, and you want to like execute your swim as best as you possibly can and enjoy it out there. But with the charities being, we set it up in 2011, and it was me and like 19 other guys who started it, and it's pretty much me who's carried it on. But it's been a long journey, and we've been able to do a lot, obviously, like achievement wise, like in the water and out the water, like in rowing boats and stuff. But like most of our best outcomes, what we've been able to achieve has been like on the ground, like in the Eastern Cape and in Zimbabwe. And so like when I don't know, definitely I don't swim, like my last 2 swims have been incredibly long and just really tough. And it definitely helps to kind of think about and focus on like where the money we fundraise goes, and like how the kids who we're supporting like follow the swim and are kind of inspired by it. It definitely helps to get you through those really tough moments.
And I mean, if you look at the Ocean 7, what was your toughest swim, and why was it the toughest swim for you?
The Ocean 7 is definitely the hardest one's the North Channel. Hey, like it's a beast. And I remember I never felt so nervous going into it, because first of all, it's just incredibly cold. I did mine on it was the earliest swim of the season in 2017, and it was viciously cold. It was 2016, sorry. It was probably like 10.5 and 12 degrees centigrade, and it's an English Channel length swim, so it's going to take you 12 hours at least. You have crazy jellyfish there too, the lion's mane, and they're like big gross aliens that just like mines of them just minefields of them everywhere. And it's just a crazy channel of water, and I've done a lot of crazy stuff up until this point. I rowed across the Indian Ocean, which took me 2 months. I consider that North Channel swim to be harder than like rowing for 2 months straight.
And I mean, when you were hooking up before that North Irish, like you said, it's going to be cold, you're going to get hit with jellyfish, there's going to be a current. It's not going to be, the guys on the boat's going to be jackets and warm, and you like freezing your balls off, excuse my English, but there's no other term. It's like horrible. Where do you go in your mind to put yourself in a happy place to like drop those obstacles away? So what I want to try and get into the level of many people in the world and in South Africa, they're going through tough times at the moment, and I want to link it up to like the North Irish, toughest swim in the world. You in cold water, all the obstacles are beating against you. You got jellyfish, the cold currents, and you in the middle. We're in the middle of that now. We're in like 11-day lockdown, South Africa. It's tough times out there. Put your mind, explain to our followers on going, what gets you through those tough moments where you're going, yes, this is cold. Where'd you go with your mind?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tony. I think, my mindset has changed quite a lot recently, because I've had to like tackle, like the North Channel is extremely hard because it's just cold, but it's compared to the swims I've done recently, it's a bit shorter, so if I went back in time, like in the North Channel swim, I went out so hard, and because I knew I was going to get cold, and I needed to do that swim, and it felt like a matter of life and death. So in that swim, I went out incredibly hard. Like I swam as fast as I could, basically, obviously because I wanted to get it over with and done, but also I wanted to like keep myself warm. I'm not a very good cold water swimmer, so I just knew I had to go out hard and get it over done quickly and just keep warm. So I think at about 6 hours, I was almost dead. I wanted to give up. And I remember like going to the boat, and I was like, guys, like this is really bad. And my mom was on the crew, and she was like, my shoulder's sore, like I'm tired, I'm cold. And they're like, my mom, as usual, she kept me, told me to keep going, and like any way she can, kind of aggressively. And I went to ask the pilot, and I was like, look, man, I'm 6 hours in. I think I'm like, how am I doing? And the guy was like, man, Cameron, if you keep going, you're gonna break the record for like the fastest crosser. And I was like, whoa, like I didn't realize that, So obviously I was swimming really, real well and quickly. So after I heard that, it gave me a lot of positivity, and I just kept going. And the next ended up taking me 12 hours. But as soon as I heard that, I knew I could make it. And obviously, the cold really affects you negatively, and makes you kind of depressed. You know, like Toni, you've been through this before too. Like the cold really seeps into your body and your psyche, and it makes you kind of like really down and depressed. And so in those situations, obviously, I had to push myself a lot. And what I do in those situations when I'm really tired and sore and mentally sore, like I think about what I'm gonna be doing the next day and the following day, and you know, the week ahead and months ahead and the years ahead. When I'm telling my grandkids, if I make it, how am I going to be acting in the future? And then I do the same thing on the other way around. Like if I don't make it, how am I going to be acting tomorrow, in like a week, a month, in a year, 50 years, telling my grandkids, you know? And the difference between those two is so extreme that like it just motivates me so much to keep going. So that's the way I used to act back in the day. But I think like these days, like obviously I just completed like a 56-hour swim continuously in like 32-degree water, which is like significantly harder mentally. And the way I've done that recently is like I've had to get much more holistic in the way I look at these swims and the way I prepare for them and then execute them. Like it's with these swims, you have to be extremely focused on your goal, like getting across. Because like St Lucia from Barbados is 150 kilometers away. You know, so you have to like take it in chunks. You have to know exactly what your goal is and how you're going to get there. And then the other side of it, and equally as important, you have to be completely detached from that outcome, because it's just too long. It's like a 2.5 day swim. Like you can't like motivate yourself continuously for so long, like to keep going. You have to be detached from the swim and just be like living in the moment and enjoying it. And at the end of the day, you just gotta kind of let it happen and just like enjoy the process. And so like, I think that mentality that I have now for these really long swims is much more, has much helped me cope with this like kind of coronavirus like lockdown. Like you know what the end goal is. We're going to get out eventually. You know, it's going to help the planet much more if we stay inside. But what can we do like now to really enjoy the moment, you know? Like so I've been studying a lot. You know, I've been studying like 6 hours a day, because obviously with these swims I've done over the last 5 years, I haven't been able to like focus on my career as much and like my personal career development. So I'm like stuck inside, I can't swim. So I've been studying like 6, 7, 8 hours a day on like things that I've wanted to study but haven't been able to. So I've been like really focusing on me and like what specific stuff do I need. And obviously as a charity too, we're trying to like find out ways, you know, that from the reserve, you know, excess funds that we've raised over the last couple of years, and how we can like help the projects, help them adjust and help them with like specific like projects in the next month that can help them through the pandemic.
I mean, that is so true. And what you said is that, you know, having that end goal and just getting through what we're doing at the moment is, you know, step by step, stroke by stroke, day by day. You know, a lot of people, you know, we're in day 11, we might get an extension. And I was speaking this to my team members last week on Friday. Everyone's like got, okay, 21 days. What happens? And, you know, I'm not putting it out there. I hope we don't have to do another 21 days. But I think that all of us mentally are like, you get to day 21 just before you're so excited, and they say, okay, guys, sorry, we have to go for another 21. Mentally, for a lot of people, need to start, you know, how do you get through that? And I want to take it a step back in your swim. If you look at when you swam around Barbados, so you've done your Ocean 7 swim, you got your next challenge. Now you go, well, you know, I'm going to swim around Barbados. That's 96 kilometers. I mean, that's like double one of the biggest ocean swims of Molokai. And you're going to swim for 36 hours. So to go from that level to swim around Barbados, how did you think you're going to say, well, listen, I'm going to swim around the island. It's going to take me, you know, how did you train for that? Number one. Number two, what do you think of before you get into the water? So I know preparation, your strategy is key, your team. And a lot of people see open water swimming as a loner sport. But, you know, for the guys and followers that don't know swimming or big events and challenges, it's also about your team. So if you can just take us a step back on, you know, around Barbados, obviously you had your goal of St Lucia, Barbados to St Lucia, which was 150 Ks. Just unpack that, you know, how did you go from around the island? Was that the stepping stone to get your goal? Was that the strategy?
Yeah, to answer your first question there, the first thing you spoke about was going from like a Molokai swim to around Barbados. And the reason why I chose Barbados actually is because I was training for Molokai, and out of San Francisco, where I was living at the time, and I still have worked almost out there, kind of is like it's too cold. The water's like Cape Town, so I wanted to train in warm water for Molokai. So I had a friend visit me from Rhodes in San Francisco. He actually lived in Barbados, and he was there with his wife and his kid, and like had dinner with them, and they were like, it's like, hey man, you should come to Barbados to train. And I was like, and stay with us. I was like, I think I will. And so I went to stay with them. I trained in Barbados, and when I was leaving Barbados, it was like the plane took off, and like we did like a bit of a U-turn, and we flew over the island, and I looked down on the island, and it's like, man, it's like a big island, but it's like, it's not that big. And I was like, I think I can swim around it. Like,
Oh, nice.
and I kind of regretted that decision, like about a year later, because when I started tenting it, and I realized it was a much harder swim than I expected. Obviously, Barbados basically sits in the middle of the Atlantic, and it's being hit by the South Atlantic trade winds every day. So it's just a nightmare of a swim. But yeah, and I trying to train for it, like going from a Molokai, where it's probably like I think it took me 17 hours. So, Tony, you're aware, and other swimmers are aware, but for anybody that's not, like, generally for a goal for open water swimming, if you want to have a successful crossing, is however long your swim is, like 17 hours, that's how much you should train in a week. So for Molokai, that's like 2.5 hours a day for 6 days of the week for me. And that's manageable with the job, Now I'm thinking about doing a 40-hour swim. And so you translate, that's like 7 hours of swimming a day, like to train for this one. Yeah. And yeah, so it's that, and that's the mentality I have to go into with this. And like, and so I just did that. I trained 7 hours a day, like in Barbados, in San Francisco, in the pool in the San Francisco Bay. And obviously, like, that's really tough. Like going from 2.5 hours a day to 7 hours a day. Like, it's just mind-blowingly hard. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously living in Barbados and swimming in the crystal clear water, it's not that bad. So, like, it was, it's easier than like I expected it to be. And at some stage I did a 50-hour week, and then I attempted Barbados the first time in September 2018, and we didn't have a very good like lead up to the swim. The winds are so strong that every day it can be like windy for a month. You can't attempt a swim. So like my first attempt, I waited for a month. I didn't train properly, and then attempted the swim, and I got about 2/3 of the way around. And in that swim, I was kind of like, I went into it. So my mindset wasn't that great. I was kind of had a bit too much ego. I wanted to do it fast, and got to about 2/3 of the way around, and I didn't have anything left, and I pulled myself out. But because I didn't really feel it, like I had the great goal of making it across, but I didn't feel that attached to it. And like even the next day, I wasn't that sad about it. And I said, like, man, I'm going to come back and try it again in like 2 months' time. Now I already had a flight to go back for the a swimming festival. Second time I went back, and like I got there, and like 4 days later, just after the open water swimming festival finished, I attempted to swim again. And I cranked it out. Hey, like I had the best swim of my life. 41 hours to do that swim, and I loved every second of it. And I done the training,
I think that's the vital part of it, Cam, and that's like in anything that we do in business, if it's in education, if it's if it's sports, business, whatever the case might be, is that if you've got the goal big enough, you put it out there. I think as human beings, we put ourselves down too quickly that that's unachievable. But if you put it out there and you put the goals and you put the training and you put the time in, you'll get the reward. And if you're hungry enough, you will do it. If your why is big enough, you'll get to the other side. So I think these are all the elements and the nuggets that's coming out from what you're saying. Exactly that. And I mean, that 41-hour swim ended up going into, a world record, which just gives me goosebumps. I mean, to swim 150 kilometers from Barbados to St Lucia, 57 hours, dude. That is just, I mean, that's just insane. So, I mean, this is you on the start. What goes through your mind when you're about to walk into the water? The world's going, are you absolutely nuts? You're going into that water, you're going to swim for, 57 hours. What was in your mind right now before you got into the water to swim this ridiculous swim?
Yeah, so that picture's obviously me back against the water, and this is actually, like, believe it or not, this is my the favorite part of the swim for me. The first time I felt this way was the English Channel. Like, you know, you stand on like Dover Beach and you look across, and you generally can't see France because the weather is so bad usually. But like, you can't see the finish line. You just see this water in front of you, and but you know that your goal is to get across. And but there's the journey to get there is so long, and so there's so much uncertainty in that all that water in front of you, and that time is going to take you to get across. Anything could happen, you know. And that uncertainty is like, it really like it really bubbles in my tummy, and like it feels exciting, you know. It feels like an adventure, and like I love that uncertainty. And that's like, you know, some people love to skydive for their adrenaline rush. Like, this is my adrenaline rush. Like standing on a beach in Barbados, looking out at the Caribbean Ocean, and knowing that I have to swim for 60 hours straight, crazy hot water. Don't know what's going to happen out there. You don't know. It could be sharks, it could be jellyfish, like it could be a storm might come through. You just don't know. Like, the uncertainty like really like motivates me, and like I just love that feeling. And it's something, that's why I kind of keep doing this stuff. Like, I enjoy the training, but I love the executing the swim, and just being out there and not knowing what's going to happen. That really an adventurous feeling, you know.
So in this swim, as you were going through, you're like motivated. It's crystal water, possible sharks and everything else. But you know, where does your mind wander to? I mean, for 57 hours, do
Yeah,
you
good.
think about different things? How do you put that in perspective? I know you said you break it down, so you don't think of the whole swim. But what do you think? You know, through this time.
Yeah. Well, I think I can take you through that 56-hour swim. Like, and it happens with most swims. Like, and you probably experience this too, Tony. Is that like when you first jump in the water, your mind will think a lot. Like, you know, you have 56 hours to swim, and so your mind's like it's a little all over the place. It's scattered. You're thinking about different things. You're nervous. Like, those first like probably 20 hours of this swim, I was actually thinking a lot. And usually for like an English channel, it's like 4 hours, then you kind of settle down. For this swim, for like the first 20 hours, I was thinking like crazy about different things, and like. And so it's funny thing is like, I'm not sure if I should talk about this online, but like I just think about like girls a lot. I think about girlfriends and like, you know, people I've been with in the past, and like I don't know why. I just came for like 20 hours. It's like not all of it, but a lot of it. And but then eventually after like 20 hours, like your mind eventually just starts settling down and like calming down, and you get to the point where you stop thinking. And this is the place you really want to be in, because as soon as you stop thinking, you just naturally start enjoying the swim more, and time just goes quickly. Like, time will fly. Like, suddenly your feeds come more quickly. Like, suddenly 5 hours have passed and you didn't even realize it, just because you're not thinking and you're just kind of in the moment and enjoying it. Then obviously you get to some points where like you start feeling very uncomfortable. It starts becoming very painful. And then you have to kind of like, you start having negative thoughts. And those times, that's the most dangerous time, because as soon as you start getting negative in a swim, that's when the house of cards just falls down. Like, the building will collapse. And so you have to be very specific about like your mindset then. And what I do, and just, this is not obviously, didn't make this up. Like, you know, I've done a lot of reading, especially in Eastern like philosophical and psychological literature. Like, and this, when you start having negative thoughts, the best thing to do is like focus on those thoughts. Like, where's the seed of that negative thought? Say, for example, I'm feeling scared, like out there, or lonely, or like jealous, or something like that. Obviously, that negative emotion has a seed somewhere, and when you really focus on what that seed is, and like you bring it up, you realize that like you're just a human being, and like of course you're going to be lonely out there. Of course you're going to be scared. It could be sharks. It could be jellyfish around. Like, you might be jealous because you might think of an ex-girlfriend or something. Like, there's always like a seed for that. And as soon as you figure what that is, and just realize you're just human, like that like negative emotion becomes very tangible, and you can kind of like just push it away. And that just kind of resets your mind and makes you more positive. As soon as you push away those negative thoughts, like your mind automatically goes positive again. And so eventually, like the second half of the swim is more about just processing every emotion that you're having. It becomes like a very psychological game. And that's probably the biggest success factor I've had in the last two swims that I've had, is just focusing on processing emotions rather than like kind of suppressing or repressing like negative emotions. And that's the thing that messed me up in my first Barbados swim. I got negative, and I try to repress and suppress, but you can't do that forever, especially on a 40-hour swim. the last 50-hour swim, 56-hour swim, I was happy the whole way, just because as soon as I had an inkling of a negative thought, I just really focused on it and like surrendered to it and let it go. And then I
And
was
then
positive
I
again.
mean, the next step, your mind can be as like, you know, switched on like that. At some point, the body starts hurting. I mean, at what point does your body start going, okay, listen, you've been swimming a shit long time now. This is sore. Doesn't matter what you take in. This is getting, I mean, I saw you when you were in hospital. I'll show the followers when you're in the hospital afterwards, and your lips and you were just like, at what point were you under pressure where you felt a lot of pain, and you must have felt it, your shoulders or something? Where were you when you start feeling that, and how did you push through that?
Yeah. So with this, the last Barbados St Lucia swim was 56 hours. It was extremely long time to swim for and do anything for. But the thing is, like, as I mentioned, I trained 40 hours a week for my around Barbados swim. I trained almost up to 70 hours a week for this next swim. So I was doing like 10 plus hours a day swimming for 3-4 months before. And at my peak, generally did about longest swim was about 65 hours in a week, and I was 50 plus for a lot of weeks. And so I trained so hard for this swim. And so actually the swimming wasn't an issue. Like, I trained so much, my body was so adapted to swimming 10 hours a day, sleeping, waking up, 10 hours a day, sleeping, waking up. So my body was fine. Like, I didn't actually get that much shoulder pain. The most pain that I had, and it's very, very significant pain, is the salt water. Like, I've got big lips, as you can tell, and usually it helps me in my daily life. In the water, and the seawater, it's my biggest crutch. Like, it's by far the worst thing out there. And my lips and my tongue get so swollen and so sore from the salt water that's like, it's indescribable pain. And the pain really starts getting bad on this swim at like 30 hours. And so you can imagine at 30 hours is almost unbearable. Now you have to swim for another 26 hours with this crazy pain. And it's getting worse and worse. I can feel it, and my lips are just getting bigger and bigger and more swollen and sore. So actually, I don't remember my shoulders being sore at all. All I could think about was my lips and my tongue. And obviously, there's like, I was taking like an anti-inflammatory, strong anti-inflammatory that my support crew was giving me. And Christina, she's actually a board member of my charity, but she helps me with all my swims. She gave me a thing called Cataflam, it's like an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory, but pretty strong. So I don't usually take painkillers. And that helped me through, like, it would work for like 2.5 hours, but then like the next hour and a half before I could take the next one, like the pain would come back like 10 times worse. And so getting through that pain was incredibly hard. Like, and it's obviously you can try and ignore the pain. You can try to like suppress it, but you can't really. It's eventually just going to come out and come back even worse, And I think, eventually, end of the day, like, you have a goal in mind, and you've been swimming for 45 hours already, and you have like 12 hours. You got an English Channel left, and like, you just may as well just keep going. Like, at this stage, it's just like just pain. Just keep going. Yeah.
So that's the big thing, is that, I think that one of my toughest parts is always the beginning part, because I know when I get to halfway, I get stronger as time goes. But now you're talking about 30 hours of pain, and you've got like another 15 hours of pain. But that goal to get onto the other side is like vital. I mean, it's just massive.
Yeah, especially as when you get to halfway, like, it's not downhill from there, but it's kind of is like, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep one hand in front of the other, one arm in front of the other, and just keep going. Each stroke, you're getting closer to the finish line.
And then as you got to the beach and you knew you were going to finish, I mean, that must have been just such a emotional high, as you knew, as the sand was getting closer and closer, and you were going to make this. I mean, just drive us through what you were feeling when you put yourself on such a big goal, such a big training element. You've done it. Your crew's there, been to support your family, the charity, and now you're about to make it. I mean, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, so this last swim was tough, because we got to St Lucia, and then there was a current against me for like the last few kilometers, and especially the last few hundred meters, the current was pushing me away from land and pushing me kind of south of the island. So I had to push really hard just to actually make it. After 56 hours of swimming, I had to like sprint. that was tough. So when I eventually got to the rock and like just touched the rock, as you can see in this picture, like as you can probably see in my face, it was more relief than anything. I was like, get me the hell out of here.
Yes, like it.
And
How long did it take you to recover?
Oh man, it was long, Like physically, because I've been doing this like 10 hours a day sleep, 10 hours a day sleep for like 6 days straight. Like my body was extremely good at recovering. And so my physical recovery, maybe like 3 days.
Sure.
I was in hospital for 2 days. They kept me there because my CK levels, which is a measure of your muscle breakdown and the excess protein from your muscles in your bloodstream, that's your CK level. It's usually supposed to be about 100 minus 7,000. And so like it's just so much, my blood was so toxic from the muscle breakdown. They wanted to keep me in hospital, even though I felt like I didn't need to be in hospital, but they wanted to keep me there for as long as possible. Sorry, my mom's just walking in.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, who's that?
My mom. This is Toni, and
hi.
How are you?
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm well. I'm so lucky to have him and Stuart here with me.
Absolutely, hey?
You want some porridge? Shall I cook some porridge?
Sorry about that. No, she's on all my swims. So it was the muscle breakdown was really bad. So I kept me in hospital for 2 days, just on a drip to get everything through my kidneys, and then probably another day, and then I was like physically fine. Obviously, my lips took about 2 weeks to get back to normal. They were bleeding for about 2 weeks afterwards. But mentally, it was really tough. They had like a month, I think. Like my short-term memory was shut. So I couldn't wait. I'll try to go to work, and like 2 weeks later, and I couldn't think at work. There's just no point in being there. It was just very, very scattered, and like it was tough emotionally, just the mental side of it, because you take yourself so far and you push yourself so much, and then when it's over, it's just like you're kind of left with a bit like a mental kind of space in your brain. Like it was hard to get over it mentally, for sure.
Sure. I mean, that's it was just absolutely insane. And then, I mean, how long after that did you decide to do your next challenge, which was the Drake Passage? I mean, obviously you chilled out a bit, and then did you say, oh, listen, that's my swimming, I'm going to give it a little bit of a gap now? I mean, where'd you go from there? I mean, 150 Ks, do you go in your mind and say, listen, I'm going to find something else? And how did you come across your next challenge?
Yeah, so actually, I planned to do this probably a year and a half before this. As I mentioned before, I rode across the Indian Ocean in 2014 with a crew of 6 guys. And one of my crew members on that row, which is a very successful row, we broke a number of Guinness World Records, like that fastest crossing across the Indian Ocean, the longest row. And was very successful. One of the crew members was a guy called Fionn Paul. He's carried on rowing as I'm swimming, and he's now rowed across every ocean. And his last thing he needed to do was like row the Southern Ocean, the Drake Passage. And so 2 years ago, he called me up and said, "Hey Cam, I'm planning this row to row the Drake Passage." He wanted to do it that year, but that was just too soon. And so we delayed it until last year. But so he said, "I want to row to Nautical." I was like, "Of course I want to row to Nautical. Like, oh, how can you say no to that?" And then it just turned out that it was going to be like December last year, just after I'd done this like crazy swim that I'd planned for already too, And so I planned it all. Like I knew that I was going to do the swim in September, and I was going to have 3 months break. And so for a month after the swim, I just took it easy and just like I went to the office and did a little bit of work, and like just didn't do anything, endurance wise, training wise. And then I started rowing for about 2 months before. And obviously I grew up a rower. So like technically I was fine. But obviously swimming and rowing is so different, especially in your back. In swimming, you use your upper back a lot, but like your lower back, not so much. Whereas in rowing, it's exclusively lower back. So for the first training sessions I did, I'd jump on the rowing machine for 10 minutes and just try to last 10 minutes without my back like getting really sore. And then I built it up to 20 minutes and 30 minutes and 40 minutes and 50 minutes and 60 minutes, all the way up to an hour and a half of training sessions like each day, and doing a lot of gym too. And then on the, the mental side, like I knew I could handle it. If you can swim for 2.5 days, you can do pretty much anything. And so the mental aspect of the row was fine. I just needed to like build my body up again to be able to like row a big rowing boat like across the Drake Passage, which is like pretty gnarly.
If you go from individuals, swimming to being in a rowing boat with a couple guys for 12 days, icy waters, choppy water from South America to Antarctica, I mean that's a mega challenge. What was your toughest part for the team with this challenge?
From a team perspective, I loved the team aspects. I was at Rhodes University for 5 years, rowing in the University 8s, and it was like the best experiences of my life. We didn't have a coach; we would just wing it and go down to like Port Alfred and row 6 hours a day, kind of thing. Just
Sure.
wing it by ourselves. And like we did really well. Like we always used to make the South African squads every year, and like just because we trained so much. So like I love that whole crew environment, and we had a very special crew. In this row, like Fionn managed to recruit some amazing people. One of the guys, his name is Colin O'Brady. He previously walked across Antarctica the year before. We had, just an amazing dude with amazing, he brought Discovery on board, it's amazing contacts too. Fionn's obviously extremely experienced. He was our captain, extremely experienced ocean navigator and skipper. Just had the background and an amazing athlete too. We had two guys from Yale University, or other guys from Yale University, who were rowed for the Yale 8. Then Jamie, who's a Scottish guy, one of the toughest guys I've ever met. We rowed across the Indian Ocean together. And so we had this like amazing crew, and like everybody was just really athletic, very smart too, and just very emotionally intelligent. And like in a little bit of comparison to my previous row, like there were a lot of things went on that row that we couldn't really help, but like this row, just the crew element was amazing. Like we just helped each other. We became like brothers out there, and I loved every second of that. And I was in my shift. We were doing hour-and-a-half shifts, 24 hours a day, and so you'd row 12 hours a day. And I was rowing with Fionn. I was rowing with Jamie and Colin in my shift, and we would sing songs at night. We would there wasn't much of a night because it was the Antarctic in the summer, but like in the hard times, we would sing songs to each other. We would just like chat, like Colin would tell us stories. Like it was crew element was amazing. And obviously like the Drake Passage is it's an incredible passage of water. You have the Southern Ocean, which is like the roughest ocean in the world. And you have so much water flowing from the Pacific and Antarctic Oceans and the Southern Oceans into this narrow gap. It's like there's just a narrow gap between South America and Antarctica. Then into the Atlantic. Like anything can happen in that body of water. Like 6,000 sailors have perished around Cape Horn, and this is where we're starting the row. And so we're obviously incredibly nervous going into it. Like John, one of the Yale guys, he calls me the day before we left for left for South America, and he's like, "Cam, should I be doing this? Like I've got a 2-year-old kid at home." I was like, how do I answer it? And I was like, I just basically gave him my opinion. I was like, we're going to be safe. It's going to be fine. Like we want to look after each other. And we did. And like the crossing ended up being a little bit relatively easier than we expected, because we expected the worst. Yeah. But we generally got good weather. I mean, good weather for the Drake Passage is terrible weather. Like we definitely had some, they called the Drake Shake or the Drake Lake. We had some definitely Drake Lake days where it was like Drake Shake days where it was like 30 feet waves. And we were just surfing down these waves, and like, it was crazy. And then you get to Antarctica and suddenly it's like freezing cold. You're rowing past icebergs. It's like killer whales like dodging around your boat. It was absolutely incredible. Like it was one of the best experiences of my life, and it was so amazing doing it with such like an amazing and closely knit and intelligent crew. Sure.
I mean, I think that, like you said, life is an adventure, and you get the good times in life. You get these challenges that get thrown your way. And I think a lot of the followers and in today's times, I'd like to close off with regarding to, what would you say to the guys at the moment, business owners, fathers, dads, brothers, sisters, where they need to stay motivated. I think at these times you have to stay positive. What little nuggets can you give these guys to go and say, listen, just, keep your head up and keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's obviously, I kind of mentioned earlier, like times are really tough, like globally, and everybody's pretty much in the same situation. And like, what is the best thing we can do right now for the planet, for the human species? And like that's staying at home and just weathering the storm. And obviously businesses aren't doing well. Myriad businesses aren't doing well. People are struggling. Like for me, looking at myself personally, like with my mom, like I'm lucky. Like there's a lot of people, especially in like less developed countries like Zimbabwe, where things are really tough. Like I'm just talking to like our partners on the ground there, and like things are really bad there. And so we're trying to help that, but like, so we, in our situation, like we have to stay at home. We have to like weather this out, and like the best thing we can do is stay at home and like and not help to transfer the virus around. And I just think that so that's the first goal, obviously, but then like what can we do within ourselves, like globally, and with ourselves, like personally, like how can we help? How can we do like what you're doing right now, Tony? This is awesome. Like doing a Power Monday, like and pushing it out to the world. Like this is what we need to be doing. We help each other, and obviously, and help each other as much as possible, and see what we can do for the rest of the world. If there is something we can do, we need to do it as best as we can. Then individually, like how can we make ourselves better? Like what are our individual goals? What have we done in the past? We didn't like our failures, and just look in the future and how we're going to change that. What are our goals in the future? I'm studying as much as I can right now because I have this opportunity, and I don't think I've had this opportunity to get it for the next 2 years, just to like sit at home and not be able to do anything. So yeah, I think it's the main goal is staying at home, helping those we can help by staying at home, and also just like what are our personal goals? What do we want to do? Like how is this opportunity at home? Like how could that help us? Yeah, and how can we best achieve our goals in the future? Yeah.
Awesome, man. Listen, Cameron, it's been an absolute honor having you on, but I think for everyone that also loves the outdoors, it's actually been so cool to see, like you said, is communities, friendships. I mean, I've been on with my brothers in Berlin. My folks are on a cruise liner on the way to Sri Lanka this morning. They can't log off. They're on their way to the Med. And they're just going with the flow. And my mom and my dad's mentality, exactly that. Just, go with the flow. Some things are out of your control. Stay positive, and you need to adapt, change. The only thing that you can't let happen is you can't be negative. Yes, we have to be real on what's happening, but you have to stay positive, carry on moving forward. But I can't wait to get into the ocean with you once this lockdown's done, hopefully in the Blouberg Ocean. Cameron's still in Cape Town, and Cameron, thanks very much for your insights and your message today. It's very much appreciated. For everyone that joined us today, thanks very much for joining us for this Power Monday. I'm going to be doing this every 2 weeks, trying to get a positive message out there, get some really cool speakers and amazing people like Cameron, truly South African as well, which is, we've got so many cool people, guys, in South Africa, and we need to tell the story. We need to share it. If we can help someone else, like Cameron says, you're making the world a better place. So thanks for joining in. For our team, Power Monday, our Realtor of Excellence agents, thanks, Cam. We'll see you on the flip side. Everyone else that joined us, thanks very much. Kyron Palfreman, our other swimming mate, he's also about to do the 7th Molokai swim. Hopefully he can still do it this year. So all best wishes for Kyron, another super champion legend out there, a good friend of ours. And I'm really glad that he was on the call. So Kyron, I'm giving you a shout out, buddy. And then, yeah, guys, everyone who joined, thank you very much. If you got any comments or questions, drop down the message. I will be sending this video. It has been recorded with the questions, and you're more than welcome. Please follow Cameron and on his website. If you'd like to donate to his charity, Banya, check it out. He's making some really, really cool things happen in really disadvantaged communities. So Cam, a huge shout out to you, making a difference in the world. And then everyone else, thanks for joining us. Our Realtor of Excellence agents, if you can stay online, we're going to follow through on our sales meeting and Power Monday. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. The guys that you can disconnect at your earliest convenience. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Cam.